some cutting in Texas as governor. In Washington, can you give us an idea of what can be cut and how to do it and where all that money goes?
Well, I'll give you some, obviously, I'm going to share with you a little expanded. If you go to rickperry.org, I've laid out a plan on taxes, on spending, and how to balance the budget by the year 2020. Part of that is by reducing spending in programs that are listed on that website. But let me give you just some examples of how government has gotten out of control and the cost. Let me go to foreign aid for just a moment. We're spending billions of dollars on foreign aid, and it just, nobody ever asks any questions about it. It just gets sent, and it gets sent all too often without any clear directions about how these countries are going to respond relative to American interest. I'd start every country's foreign aid at zero, and then we can have the conversation of whether or not these individuals deserve our support and why we deserve their support. I have no idea why Americans should allow the amount of money that goes to Washington, D.C. To fund, I'll give you 3 agencies of government, the Commerce Department, the Energy Department, and the Education Department. When you think about why do we send money to Washington, D.C., where they take about $1 billion off to administer the Department of Education, and then they pick winners and losers across the country. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, there were 9 states that are going to get race to the top money. Why? Why would Washington, D.C. be better and more adept or more knowledgeable how to educate the children of Iowa than Terry Branstad and the legislature and the people at your local schools? I would do away with the Department of Education completely, totally, along with Commerce, along with Energy. We don't need that. That's part of the problem, is that we've allowed, as I said in my remarks, government has gotten bigger and bigger. Our founding fathers had the same issue. They found themselves far removed from a centralized, all-powerful government, and they were willing to do something about it. They were willing to put their good names, their treasure, even their lives on the line. When they signed that Declaration of Independence, a lot of them realized that it was the end of any of their treasure and even their lives. As they worked to create that Constitution, they had enumerated powers for the federal government. And in that Bill of Rights, when they got down to the 10th Amendment, they clearly meant for the states to be in control of a substantial amount of the decision making, rather than centralized one-size-all-fits that we see in Washington, D.C. So my efforts and my goal will be to reduce substantially the spending, and what needs to occur in this country is to pass that balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. That will make sure that our children, our grandchildren, and future legislatures, the children will not be abused economically because the Congress cannot spend more than what they bring in. Makes sense. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
As president, you'd be head of the Republican Party. What would you do to keep Iowa first in the nation status?
Well, actually, the President of the United States is not the head of the Republican Party. That's the RNC. It seems to be working pretty good.
Would you do like the Democrat Party did back when they had their problems? They didn't allow the other candidates to go into the other states to...
Listen, that's a Republican National Committee issue. And Iowa, from my perspective, is always going to be the first in the nation. They fight this fight every 4 years, and seems to me as it always gets settled, as Iowa continues to get to be the first in the nation. I don't have a problem with that, or I wouldn't be here. Yes, sir.
What would you do about the rate in Social Security?
Yes, sir. I have called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. I got criticized about it. And then people started looking back and finding that for decades there have been people that have called Social Security a Ponzi scheme because most of you that are less than 40 years old know for a fact that this system that we have today, if it's not transformed, it's not going to have any money in it. So those that are on Social Security today need to understand something. And those that are my age that are approaching Social Security age, that program's going to be there. It's funded to take care of you until you take your last breath on this earth. But for those young people, we're going to have to transform that system. We're going to have to come up with a new way because Social Security Trust Fund has no money in it. It's been taken out and used by those insiders in Washington, D.C. To balance the budget. They've used that money to keep from having to make hard decisions in the past. So no longer can we kick the can down the road. Do we allow young people in the workplace to take part of that money out and put it into private accounts? Do we step up the age at which people become eligible for it? I think there are a lot of different ideas about how you reform Social Security, and we have to do that, as well as Medicaid, which is the state-run programs. And Medicaid, I would block grant those back to the states again. The governor and the legislature know how to deliver health care better for Iowa than some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. States are different. I mean, the idea that they can sit in Washington and say, well, we'll give you a little waiver over here and we'll give you a little waiver over here in Oklahoma, and they need to be out of that business. Block grant those dollars back to the states and let the states